What's going on, everybody? Good late afternoon or early evening for some of you. Hope you guys are doing well. And we're going to be doing another one of these today, a video game review. I do a few of these every year. I know I did one just a few weeks ago with Metaphor, but as circumstance has had it, I've played another very recent release, MiSide. I played MiSide on stream a couple of days ago, played it across 2 sessions, and I want to go ahead and talk about it for a little bit here on the YouTube channel. Obviously, this is not going to be something that a lot of people are super interested in because MiSide was very much a niche game, and even the big video games, even the AAA video games that I play and talk about on this channel don't get a lot of attention, but I figured some people should get some degree of appreciation out of this. So we're going to talk about MiSide. Um, Basically, it's it's kind of complicated to talk about MiSide, right? Because there are so many different gameplay elements at play in a game like MiSide. So, just to talk about the game as a project, I want to say this. Before I say anything about how I felt about the game, I want to say this game is a very positive and notable achievement in the world of video games. This game was made by a couple of people who are basically doing this mostly for fun. Like, they're not professionals, they're not backed by big budgets, they're not a big studio. To the best of my knowledge, this game was made by a handful of people. So the actual programming and development of this game is really, really impressive because this game basically does not have any major issues that make it hard or difficult or impossible in any way to play. And when I got this game, I was kind of expecting a sloppy experience that showed that it was a cheap and undermanned development process. I was expecting something akin to like the EDP 445 simulator game, which was clearly made by one person in his free time, and he just put it on itch.io for fun, and the game was barely playable, and it was something that you go through in about 10 minutes, and it's just a gag. I knew this was going to be better than that, but I was expecting something that would make me think of that a little bit, in the sense that it was going to be a pretty cheaply put together game, and it was just going to be kind of a anime joke more than anything. But I'll tell you, it's not. So on that level, MiSide is actually, I think, a great video game accomplishment. Now, as for the game itself, basically, it's a few different genres. It's mostly an adventure game, I think. If I had to say it's one thing, I would say it's an adventure game. You play as a generic character who is obsessed with playing a raising simulator game of a waifu character on his phone, and he ends up getting sucked into the game and getting to actually be with his waifu, and the game takes a bunch of twists and turns from there. If you're at all familiar with this game, you probably know a little bit about where it's going, but there's actually a lot that isn't immediately apparent. Like, everybody who knows anything about MiSide knows that in part, and in large part, it is a horror game, and it does end up taking a horror twist. In fact, for good reason, the game is heavily compared to Doki Doki Literature Club, which was another game that I played on stream a couple years ago, and I liked it. This game is definitely objectively better. I think that Doki Doki Literature Club sticks with you a little bit more because it was something a little bit more unexpected, and some of the elements of Doki Doki Literature Club are a little more iconic at this point. But MiSide kind of takes that general idea and turns it into more of an actual video game, whereas Doki Doki Literature Club is just a visual novel. So you have adventure parts where you're going around exploring, trying to solve a puzzle. Now, the puzzles are all very easy, but they're puzzles nevertheless. There are a couple of chase segments where you're trying to run away from something that's trying to kill you. There are a couple of segments where you have to find items and put them in certain places in order to progress. There's not really much combat, but there are some mini games that have combat-like elements in it. So it's a bunch of different gameplay types, really. Again, I think adventure is the primary one, but you have a lot of other things. There's even one level that turns into a visual novel, which I think is more of an in-joke than anything, but you have one level that turns into that. You have one level that's basically like Temple Run, except you're not playing it on your phone, you're playing it on your computer. It's just a lot of things that feel like it's consistently paying homage to other things that the developers like in a way that is good. It's not sloppy, it's not poorly done, it's not buggy or glitchy or anything like that. It feels like everything in the game is there intentionally and by design, and I appreciated that. So it's a well-made game for what it is. And this could have easily been not a well-made game. I think we see AAA or quadruple A releases all the time that are much sloppier than this. Like a game like the pirate game that came out a while ago that they were calling the quadruple A. What was that game called? Was it? I don't think it was Sea of Thieves, but somebody out there is going to know what I'm talking about. The pirate game that came out a couple of maybe a year ago that was being advertised as a quadruple A experience. This game is better made than that one, and I know that game's a lot more ambitious, but there's a lot in this game that shows you there's little little things that show you they really cared about what they were making. Now, there isn't a lot to the game. There is a little bit of replay value. There is some reason to play the game more than once, but probably not much more than just maybe twice, really, unless you're really into the aesthetic appeal of the game with like the characters and you want to have more interactions with some of the characters you run into. There's really not much to it. You'll probably be done with it in like 6 hours at most. I can't imagine anybody playing this game for more than 6 hours unless they really just want to go, unless they really just want to keep experiencing it over and over again. And right now, the game isn't completely finished. I understand that. So maybe they'll add something that ends up giving the game more replay value, like maybe an infinite mode. But at its core, MiSide is basically taking the whole waifu industry and having some fun with it and turning it into a little bit of a horror game. It's mocking a lot of the tropes that you find in like waifu anime in a way that I thought was appreciated. There are references to other games and other media. Like there's a reference to PT, which was the Silent Hills trailer. There's a very obvious one to PT's or Silent Hills, excuse me, the PT trailer. There's a references to like Death Note. I think there's some references to like Sailor Moon. There's a lot of goofy stuff in here that I had an appreciation for. Again, there's not a lot to the game, but for the game they made, there's really not much to criticize. I will say there are a few different endings to this game. I do not I'm not a huge fan of the way the endings currently resolve, but the thing is, that can change because they're going to probably add some kind of a free play mode. They may end up adding another ending, and they could easily do some kind of a golden ending. And I don't want to say more than that because then I'm starting to give away plot details. I've already given away everything that I think can be safely given away. But play the game yourself if any of that sounds fun to you. All right, that's my review. See you guys later. Go Hawks. I mean, for the game that it is, for the game that MiSide is, I'd probably give it something like a... It doesn't really do anything wrong as far as the game that it's trying to be, but what it's trying to be is very simplistic. I'd give it like an 8.1 out of 10. It's good. I had fun playing it. I doubt I ever play it again, though. I don't know why I would need to play it again unless they add something new to the game, in which case that's a different conversation to be had. So 8.1 out of 10. It's a good game. Really, for the kind of game that it's trying to be, it's probably like a 10 out of 10, but I can't deny that it's a very simplistic game. There's some parts where there's really not much gameplay at all. It's just like an experience. And you can't put that on the same level as a game like Metaphor or Persona or Resident Evil or anything else that you play, right? That just wouldn't make sense. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you guys thought of MiSide if you played it. That is my review.